ربنا افتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين.
Car won't start?
Can feel auto.
Noisy brakes?
Can feel auto.
Due for a service?
Can feel auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
صلوا على الحبيب صلى الله تعالى على محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal, Mubarak to the Islamic brothers and sisters of South Africa, KZN, especially Durban. The head of the Shura Committee of Dawat Islami, Nigrani Shura Sahib, is coming down to South Africa, to KZN, to Durban, to host a provincial level ijtima' taking place on the 2nd of February, Sunday, at the venue, the Durban Exhibition Center. There's accommodation for Islamic brothers, separate accommodation for Islamic sisters. So please save the date, the 2nd of February, Durban Exhibition Center, 10 a.m. We will see you there, inshallah Azza wa Jal, for a life-changing, reforming bayan to bring us closer to the sunnah of the beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Looking forward to seeing you all with your families. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam.
The views and opinions expressed by the presenters and guests of Radio Al-Ansar are not necessarily the views and opinions of Radio Al-Ansar and the Al-Ansar Foundation.
Tune in to the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili.
It's finally Friday again. Assalamu alaikum.
From South Africa to the world.
Let's go.
Don't miss out on Friday afternoon vibes like no other. Put it on and leave it on. Join us for inspiration and positivity from trailblazing guests. Topics you want to hear. Your Friday just got better. Let's make the end of the week better together. Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili. Young, fresh and trending.
Where do we go from here? Look up to the sky, so many shades of you. Paint the day and night, the beauty of this life, a reflection of you and I, created in different nations and tribes, so we can unite.
Hopping on these planes, got my people in all these places, passport stamp running out of pages, linked up with my family, but no, we ain't on the same side of the sea, tribe different than them, we ain't got the same team, one body, one love, if we bleed then I'll bleed, same one life, you take humanity. Let's
سنبناني نونكي أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Of course, it is finally Friday again. So yes, Jum'ah Mubarak to you and yours, wherever you are, in your homes as well as in your car. You're listening to the voice of Bibi Amina Phili. And of course, we have a fantastic lineup, amazing guests that of course are going to be joining us within a studio shortly via a StreamYard, of course. But on today's show, we chat to two fantastic gentlemen that are taking the media landscape by storm. We're going to be talking to Mr. Thuthuka Zondi. He is a BBC cameraman as well as journalist, and he tells us about his journey and he tells us where it all began, where did the inspiration begin, and how did he all start to get inspired to do that fantastic work. And thereafter, we chat to Luqmaan Shadrach, who is a TV host, and he has many achievements under his belt, and we'll be chatting to him a little bit later right here on 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Peter Maritzburg. If you have just joined us, we'll just like to welcome you and tell you right here for your listening pleasure. You're listening to the Feel Good Friday.
This is the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili, only on your number one radio station.
And on that note, the clock strikes, so we're about to go for our traffic update.
Good Friday. Traffic updates. Updates that help you plan your day like a boss.
All right, Officer Ngwana, tell us, good afternoon, and tell us what's happening on our roads.
Feel Good Friday. We're looking at the N3, Pietermaritzburg bound. We've got a lot of traffic that's the slow-moving traffic. N2 northbound, heavily backed up from Westwood Mall towards Kwamashu. We've got an accident, R74, Stengamena. All relevant departments are on scene. And also, take notes, ongoing roadworks are still there, as like last year. I'm appealing to the drivers, let us adhere to the rules of the road. Other than that, everything is normal. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy till next week. I'm Warrant Officer Ngwane from Durban Metro Police.
Good Friday. Traffic updates. Updates that help you plan your day like a boss.
Plumbing and building contractors. Discover high-quality plumbing supplies at unbeatable prices with Plumcore. From pipes to the latest tech, we have it all. Visit Plumcore today for expert advice, exceptional service, and in-store discounts. Call 031-350-3737 or visit us at 16 Intersite Avenue, Amgeni Business Park. Plumcore, your trusted partner in plumbing supplies.
My local dealer wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
Auto wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
But also wants my car.
Sellers Cars want it more.
Well, shall I give them a call?
They'll do more, help more, and you could even get more. 'Cause Sellers Cars want it more.
Well, that's more like it.
Everyone wants your car, but Sellers Cars want it more. Visit sellerscars.co.za or call 0678 678 678.
This is the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili, only on your #1 radio station. Of the day.
زينت السماء وضعت الجبال أمرت البحار وخلقت الجنات سيرت الكواكب.
And of course, it is 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg, gone by exactly 17 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. And of course, it is the Feel Good Friday. We're always having some good vibes on this fantastic Friday afternoon, the show that you choose to listen to every Fridays. And thank you so much for that. But of course, on today's show, we have, I would say, an award-winning news cameraman, a super talented and acclaimed videographer and cinematographer with over 15 years of international media experience. He has established himself with, of course, as a leader in visual storytelling. His career spans numerous significant global and historical moments. He's covered the Nelson Mandela's passing, as well as the Oscar Pistorius trial, the fall of the Robert Mugabe, among several other historic events. He also has covered major sporting events such as the FIFA World Cup held in South Africa in 2010, as well as one hosted in Brazil in 2014. He also was involved in the Rio Olympics of 2016, the AFCON hosting the Ivory Coast last year, amongst several other fantastic events. But of course, welcoming to the Feel Good Friday for the very first time is Mr. Thuthuka Zondi. Welcome to the Feel Good Friday.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to chat to us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel honored to be here.
Absolutely. Just to get straight into the particular conversation for this particular afternoon, before we get into the interview, tell me about a coverage you will never forget.
Oh wow! Because I've been doing this thing for so many years, there's a couple of stories, but I'll find a short one for you. So the coverage I'll never forget was 2012. I did a story in Tugela. So it's about these school kids that used to swim across the Tugela River to get to school. So for me, that story was one of my biggest stories ever because it had a positive impact. I remember when we aired that story, I was still with ENCA at the time. One of the MECs actually directly called me and said, I just saw the story on TV. Is it true that there are still kids in KwaZulu Natal that are swimming to get to school? And I was like, I'm going to take you there tomorrow. I took him there the next day, and a bridge was built after that because of that story. So that story is like so close to my heart.
Absolutely. Sounds, just so inspiring. But you have covered a wide range of events and moments from football tournaments and major political events to environmental and wildlife filmmaking. The epic moments such as the Durban mother who threw her baby to strangers from a building. Tell me what kind of thoughts you were having when you were covering the typhoons Haiyan in the Philippines or even the earthquake in the Nepal.
Yeah, so those two stories where they had so much impact on me. First of all, one has to thank the gift of the givers, Imtiaz Suleiman, because they are the ones who took me to the Philippines when the typhoon happened, and the destruction of the typhoon and the amount of people that died there, and it makes you realize something, especially about South Africa. In Africa, it makes you feel proud of being South African and realizing that you are lucky to be in South Africa because if there's a disaster in South Africa, the government will be there to help. And when we were there in the Philippines, there was the island we went to called Polongpon. There was no government to be seen. Like people were picking themselves up and rebuilding their lives and building their houses again. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this would never happen in South Africa. Like, if we have a disaster in South Africa, the first thing people do is to wait for the government's response, and then no matter when it comes, but we know the government is coming. And when you look at the difference there in the Philippines where we were, fine, the mayor was very helpful to the people, but most of the people they were picking themselves up. So it was like a story of resilience and basically rising from the ashes and building your life back. So it had a very, I don't know how to describe this feeling, but I got a sense that, wow, we are lucky to be in South Africa.
Absolutely. We are lucky to be in South Africa as well as be South African. But now your profession takes you around the four corners of the globe. What cultural shocks have you been experiencing whilst on duty?
Yeah. For me, the the biggest shock is firstly the similarities and not the differences. Like as you travel around the world, the first thing that always shocks me is like, oh wow, I've seen this in South Africa. And you are eating food and you're like, ah man, definitely there's Raja in this food. Like I've tasted this food before. You know? So it's always like the similarities that shock you at the weirdest place. But taking you back to the Philippines, the most cultural shock for me there was they have this sport that is so popular in the Philippines. It's they call it sabong. It's cockfighting. Like literally, they take these two roosters. There's even like an arena where people come and sit to watch two roosters fighting, and it's such a huge sport. It's like there's a lot of money involved, and these two chickens will be fighting. Like, yeah, for me that was a shock. Like they'll be fighting to death. Like honestly, one chicken would then die, and then I was also interested. Like now what happens? Because the chicken is dead, and then one guy was telling me, no, we cook it and eat it. I'm like, yeah, it I know it's still a chicken, but that was a champion like last week. So now why are we cooking and eating it? It was shocking for me because it's such a big sport in the Philippines. It's called sabong. So yeah, for me that was a big cultural shock.
Absolutely. Even I think if I would go, I'd also get, shocked by that. But of course, let's get into something a little bit, I would say, but serious. But we often observe that the Western media often portrays the African continent with a negative connotation. Now, the African narrative or discourse is often centered around poverty, disease, corruption, underdevelopment, poor leadership, and the likes. Having completed, obviously, a postgraduate diploma in digital business with a strong focus on digital transformation in media, what role can you possibly play in revealing the true African identity?
So I would answer that question in like 2 points, especially the Western media, how they see Africa. Because firstly, we can go back to where I think this is how it happened and where it started from. You look at the number of NGOs that we have here in Africa, and these NGOs, they need to report back to the funders in the West to say this is the work that we are doing. And some of these NGOs, they have powerful communications team. Some of them, they're bigger than even newsrooms. So that's the news that get to the West. It comes through NGOs. This is the work that we've done. This is the amount of people we have fed. This is the amount of Africans we have saved through this disease. And then when you are that side of the world, that is the news that you get. So the Africans do not have a voice in the West. But now, thanks to the internet, now people in the West are starting to see Africa for what it really is. It's not always about diseases. It's not always about hunger. And also having people like us, I'm in an international newsroom right now. So we have these meetings in the morning where we are talking about stories that we're going to cover in Africa. Having people like us now in those meetings, we are able to ask questions like, well, what do you mean that the story is supposed to be done like this? To give you an example, uh, there was a story happening in Botswana. So how the story started is this community has killed an elephant. Elephant, there has to be a reason because the poacher stigma that Africans are poaching wildlife and stuff. So I was like, no, okay, let's go to Botswana. And then we get to Botswana. We interviewed a woman whose husband was killed by the same elephant. You see now, the story changes. It's no longer about poachers because now there's an African voice. There's this woman who's saying, my husband was trying to protect our field. I also learned something that apparently a family of elephants can just eat all your maize meal, the fields in one night and finish everything. So the husband was trying to protect his fields and then the elephant killed him and then the community then retaliated. So now the story is changing from this African community pushed an elephant to now, what do they call it? Wildlife, human clash now. So now we are looking at why is now wildlife clashing with humans. And then when you go deeper in that story, you realize the reason the elephants are leaving the park and coming into communities is because there is not enough water in the park. The cause of that is climate change. And we know who are the biggest polluters in the world. So now you see having these voices in international um newsrooms is helping a lot in terms of changing that perception. And yeah, like I was saying, thanks to the internet now, the world is like wide open. People can see exactly what is happening. And then the second point will be looking into us as Africans on our own, like the perceptions we have amongst each other as well, also makes the situation worse. Like I travel Africa a lot. I'm always excited to travel Africa. Actually, if I'm given a chance to travel anywhere in the world, I choose an African country because we are just authentic. You see, Africa is just beautiful. Like if you go to Malawi, I have a serious addiction of coffee. And the best cup of coffee I've ever tasted was in Malawi. It's coffee called Mzuzu. And then I felt so bad because how come we've never heard of this coffee before? How come we always hear bad things about Malawi and not the fact that they farm one of the best coffees in the world? So us as Africans as well, in our newsrooms, we need to start looking into telling positive stories about ourselves.
Absolutely. But that's why we have people like you that are doing fantastic work and giving us the footage that we need to see about these other countries. But of course, having worked locally at the ANC, as you mentioned earlier on, and now with a media giant such as the BBC in the UK, what key message will you like to pass to aspiring young cameramen listening to you right now?
The message I can give them is use the internet positively. LinkedIn, look at the pages of other people. That is what I'm doing right now. I'm following all the cameramen who are doing amazing work all over the world. I'm able to talk to them about future collaborations, and the world is wide open. And even if you don't have money to go to the university to study filmmaking, if you use YouTube to learn some of the few lessons about camera work, and then connect with the people who are in the same space, you will go far. Like it's amazing what the internet can do. Like I have friends all over the world now. I have a guy that I'm chatting to on my WhatsApp now. He works for Formula One. I've always wanted to go and work for Formula One, and to meet someone who actually works there, and you are inboxing them on LinkedIn and they reply, it's like, oh wow. So it means maybe this could be the next step for me going forward. So all the young people, use the internet. When you're on Instagram, it's not about fashion. Look at the behind the scenes, how they did A, B, C, D. What's the latest camera out there? What can it do? And how can you get one?
Absolutely. But since you mentioned Instagram, it's time you get Instagram so we can follow you and see the work that you do.
Definitely. I will make my Instagram account very active soon.
Very active soon. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Thuthuka Zondi, for joining us today on the Feel Good Friday. Hoping that we can chat to you in future.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. Anytime.
Absolutely. Of course, it's 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. If you've just joined us, we've just missed out on a fantastic interview with Thuthuka Zondi, who, of course, is a BBC cameraman and journalist doing amazing things in his field. Well, of course, up next, we're going to be chatting to another man who's making a difference in the media landscape, Mr. Luqmaan Shadrach. But of course, don't go anywhere. Let's go for the short ad break. When we come back, we'll get right into it.
Like a Tory and I know that, but love got me thinking she was all that. Yeah. I was trapped in the dunya's love, and everything was a game.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is Sunfoil pure sunflower cooking oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunfoil cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is Sunfoil. Tradition just tastes better.
Today Jamshed brings you Summer Clearance Sale with up to 50% off on all items. Avail the most exciting offer from 23rd January to 2nd February 2025. Visit our store or shop online at ca.todayjamshed.com.
They convince the world to believe that terrorists look like beards and thobes. Now, as the facade cracks, one martyr after another, the world sees through the broken windows and now knows the true face of terrorism. It wears suits and ties and smiles behind lies.
اللهم احفظ المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الحاقدين. اللهم أعد المسجد الأقصى إلى رحاب المسلمين. اللهم طهر المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الغاصبين اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك يا قوي يا متين اللهم منزل الكتاب مجري السحاب هازم الأحزاب سريع الحساب اهزم اليهود وزلزلهم يا قوي يا عزيز.
This is the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili, only on your number one radio station.
Get ready, South Africa. For the first time, the legendary Bassem Youssef is hitting our shores with his electrifying Middle Beast tour. From heart surgeon to global comedy sensation, his journey is as bold as his punchline. Catch Bassem Youssef live on the 7th of February at the Durban ICC Arena. Tickets at ticketpros.co.za. Brought to you by Blue Blood and the Gift of the Giver.
Tune in to the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili.
It's finally Friday again. Assalamu alaikum.
From South Africa to the world.
Let's go.
Don't miss out on Friday afternoon vibes like no other. Put it on and leave it on. Join us for inspiration and positivity from trailblazing guests to topics you want to hear. Your Friday just got better. Let's make the end of the week better together. Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili. Young, fresh and trending.
Where do we go from here? Look up to the sky, so many shades of you. Paint the day and night, the beauty of this life, a reflection of you and I, created in different nations and tribes, so we can unite.
Hopping on these planes, got my people in all these places. Passports there, but they not the pages. Linked up with my family, but no, we ain't on the same side of the sea. Tribe different than them, we ain't got the same team. One body, one love, if you bleed, then I'll bleed. Say one life, you take your vanity. Let's stand.
And of course, welcome back. It is 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 of FM in Pietermaritzburg. Welcoming you back to the best show on your Fridays. It is the Feel Good Friday with myself, Bibi Amina Phili. But of course, welcome back to yet another exciting episode and guests that we have. Today, we of course have the pleasure of hosting two fantastic males. But of course, right now, we're going to be chatting to Mr. the talented, if I may say, Mr. Luqmaan Shadrach, a renowned television host from Hilal TV. Now, Luqmaan's journey in the media industry is absolutely and truly inspiring. And we're thrilled to share his story with you, of course, from his early days in broadcasting and his current role as a respected TV host. Now, Luqmaan's passion for storytelling and connecting with the audiences is absolutely evident when we see it in everything that he does. But of course, let's dive into the conversation for this particular afternoon and welcoming to the Feel Good Friday, Mr. Luqmaan Shadrach. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Now you on the other side of the seat. Usually you're the one doing the interviews. Now you on the hot seat today.
I'm actually quite nervous. I'm so worried about what you're going to ask me.
Absolutely. But let's dive straight into the conversation for this particular afternoon. Now, Brother Luqmaan, what's the most significant risk you've taken in your career and how did it impact you, your growth, especially as a TV host?
That's a good question. I think I spent many years in radio prior to coming to TV, and I suppose sporadically during my radio journey, I did quite a bit of TV work, be it adverts or just, links as well. I think being in TV full time can be a bit daunting, can be a bit challenging. I suppose not just for me as a presenter, but also for your guest. Because once you put a camera in front of someone, they tend to freeze up. They tend to, be someone else. So it's all about making them feel comfortable, settling them into the interview so that you can get out the relevant information.
Absolutely. But now, how do you balance? Now, I would like to know this because, I think I met you for the first time at the Durban Summer Souk. Obviously, it was such an honor. But how do you balance the need to obviously entertain and inform your audience while also tackling the complex or sensitive topics?
Wow, that's a very powerful question, especially with someone being in media. And most media professionals can probably relate to this as well. For me, it's about my reporting being real and my reporting being factual. Once you start to sugarcoat things or once you start to embellish in your interview, you tend to lose your audience. And that happens a lot in this industry. So for me, it's about keeping it simple. And I love people. I love being around people. I love interacting with people. And I love learning. I've got this inquiry in mind. I think I've had it since a very young boy. So it's still like, and I try and keep it very real to connect with the person.
The fact that you mentioned that you like people, that shows exactly how you present. You can see that you are a people's person, and I think that's why people enjoy. And we see the inspiration that, of course, you bring to every broadcast and presentation that you particularly do. But of course, we would like to know a bit more about your experience and how it went down. So, can you share an experience where you had to think on your feet? Sometimes when it comes to broadcasting and live television or live radio, sometimes things go off and you have to think on your feet, so tell us the experience where you had to think on your feet and adapt to in an unexpected situation during a live broadcast.
Sure, there's so many to mention because most of my broadcasts that I do quite a bit of live stuff. I'm trying to do recording. I find that when you script something, we become our worst enemy once we review that script. So I love live. So I cover things like sonar, bricks. I went to Egypt a couple of years ago when the October 7th attacks happened in Gaza. I followed the humanitarian aid from Egypt to the Rafah border as well. And there's always moving pieces. The guest could be late, a vehicle, comes into the shot or somebody walks into the shot as well. That happens quite often. So it's all about being prepared. It's all about doing your research. Once you do your research, it allows you to ad-lib. It allows you to think on your feet as well and to steer the interview into a positive light as well. I remember, I think it was last year. Could have been last year or the year before, we were down to cover a soccer match in Durban. And I'm interviewing all these youngsters, little beautiful youngsters that had an amazing game. I think they could have been, 7, 8 years old. And this is typical of youngsters, the innocence of youngsters as well. And I'm so into it and I'm interviewing this guy and how was your game and how was the match and how did you feel? Do your parents enjoy the match? And I come to this one boy and I kid you not, Amina. He says, I need to pee. That's what he tells me. That's what he tells me. Now, what do? You've got to swing it around and say, okay, my boy, you go off and I'll chat to your friends type of thing. But these are the things that happen on live TV.
And we embrace it. We embrace it, of course, being obviously in the media space. But of course, how do you stay? Now, I know that you are inspiring us, but I'm sure there's something that inspires you as well. So how do you stay curious and keep learning? And what source of inspiration do you draw from to stay ahead and, to curve, the media industry?
Wow. For me, I think first off, I respect my audience. I have the utmost respect for my audience, even my guest that I interview as well. I don't make it about me. I'm just a conduit to deliver that story. It's all about, taking feedback and advice, especially from your colleagues in the industry. I mean, people camera, but they forget about all the other stuff that happens behind the scene. Sometimes things come together very last minute. Technical staff, production staff, other journalists in the industry as well. So it's a combined effort, and there's various factors that contribute towards a successful broadcast and keeping abreast of things as well. Now, obviously, one needs to be well read, and use social media to actually inform you. Now, often enough in the media world, we find ourselves spending hours and hours on social media, on the internet, at work, and sometimes you do need a break. You need to cut off. You need to just switch all your screens off, take a weekend off, recuperate, spend time with the family, and rejuvenate, and then that passion gets to live for another couple of years.
Now, within the TV media space, there's always these misconceptions, and I want you to debunk them with me today. But what is the biggest, from your side, what is the biggest misconception people have about being a TV host, and how do you navigate the pressure and expectations that come with this job?
So a lot of people think we paid very well, number one.
Oh.
In some instances, yes, people do live their best life, but it takes hard work, Some people think we're so composed that everything runs very smoothly. Viewers don't see, like I mentioned, what happens behind the camera. Sometimes, because moving pieces, especially in a live shot, things come together on the last minute. Or there's a for that matter, and you need to adapt accordingly as well. But I try to be part of our community. I try to involve myself. I mean, look, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in Durbs, right? I've been living in I grew up in Phoenix, in Durban. And if you think of Phoenix and the stereotypes that come from Phoenix, the challenges Phoenix has as well. So my message to people is, do not allow your circumstances to dictate what you want to achieve. Doesn't matter where you grow. I never forget my past. When I go back, my last trip, I spent time with the family in Phoenix as well. And it was so lovely just to catch up. So for me, it's about keeping it real, keeping it humble. And what people see on the screen, they don't need to know what happens behind the scenes, because it's the I have for my audience.
Absolutely. But if you spoke about home and Phoenix, I didn't know you were a Phoenix boy, but I didn't know you were a Durban boy either. I thought you were a Cape Town boy.
Yeah.
But of course, now
28 years to be exact. So please don't call me uncle. And yeah, so that's how long I've been in the Cape. But I'm still a Durban boy at heart. I still support the Sharks. And every time I come to Durban, I just love to see what's changed, what's new, what's happening, and will always be my hometown.
Always be your hometown, indeed. But if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Look, in life, there's nothing worse than living with regret. But yeah, there's some skills that you can hone in on, or I should have honed in on maybe much earlier in my career. For example, read as much as possible. It allows format your ideas and actually script them. Also, allow your years in media to help you gain the necessary skills. Now, don't expect to start at the top. And this is what happens when people enter this industry. Use the advice given to you by others that have already gone through those years in the media, and respect everyone. It takes so many people to make a production come through, I can't do this without my cameraman, without my technical staff, my editors, the person that schedules the program. It's a combined effort. So there's no I in team, like they say. So in this industry, being in the media world, there's so many things, there's so many moving pieces that needs to come together just before a production. So my advice is, for me, if I had to go back, is, I wish I would have read more and just maybe, opened myself to more opportunities that should have been there 20 years ago. But you know what, Sarah?
Absolutely. But, how do you see, now you've been obviously in the media television scape for quite some time now. So how do you see the media landscape evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And what role do you think TV hosts like yourself will play in shaping the conversation?
We all know that social media has a huge influence how stories evolve. But however, people misconstrue social media influencers as journalists. This is not, there's no way. Some may, very well be journalists, and kudos to them that are doing a wonderful job. But if you don't do your research and report factually, and get this right, ethically, you're going to lose your audience. TV will be around for many years to come. But how we see and respect journalists and the work that they put in, however little or however much work they've put in, I think the landscape of TV may change. It's changing in radio at the moment, where people who are serious influencers are making their way to radio. But if you can't say two words, or if you mumble, or if you don't do your research properly, and this is the fundamentals in journalism, you may lose your audience. So respect your audience in order to put in that work that needs to be there.
Absolutely. But now, just to, of course, conclude the conversation for this particular afternoon, can you share a memorable experience where you received feedback or even criticism that changed your perception or approach, and how you, of course, grew from it?
Whenever I do a production, whether it's TV or radio, I still do, radio is my first love. They always say I had a face for radio. I don't know how I ended up in TV because, but I always ask my team, listen, what did you think of that? Could I have done things better? And I always ask for feedback. But I used to do a 6 to 9 p.m. show on Radio 786 here in Cape Town. I did that for many years. So the shift at that time in the evening, there's very few staff that's at the studio. So it's either you, the reception, the technician, and you become a bit jaded sometimes. You're just talking to the audience, and it's such a privilege for the audience to turn on the radio to your station. They can tune into anybody, but they choose to tune into your station. And there used to be an uncle, Mr. Oberey, and he's got such a wonderful story because he met Muhammad Ali back in the day. He was in his 80s when I met him. And back in the day, he met Muhammad Ali when he came to South Africa, and it was a whole, he was in the paper and whatever. And you know what? He used to call the receptionist, and he used to ask her or leave a message and say, please, can you ask Luqmaan if he's had supper? If he hasn't had supper, I'd like to send him supper. Those me will last forever. We meet all the politicians, and sometimes we get starstruck, sometimes it's power for the cause, but those stories. So for me, it's the power of how your audience appreciates your work. There's many stories like that, but that's just one that sticks to me.
Absolutely. If you could switch lives with any TV host or journalist for a day, who would it be, and what would you hope to achieve or learn from that experience?
It has to be Steve Harvey. I mean, he's suits. I'm a suit guy. For one, he's just on point. And he's a hardworking guy. I mean, he does TV, he does radio. He often tune into a radio station in the US that's in Connecticut, that he does the morning show sometime. And he does, MC work. He does comedy. He's a husband. He's a father. He's just an all-around nice guy. And he has a pretty hectic schedule. For me, I would like to work a home balance that he has going for him. Obviously, he's got a team behind him that helps him. But he's done amazingly well in the industry, and kudos to him. He went down, many years ago, and his family and agent picked him up as well. So for me, that's one of the really respect, because he's done so well. He's evolved over the years as well. He hasn't remained stagnant. The other guy, I mean, he's a legend as well, and everybody would know him, is a British broadcaster and biologist, David Attenborough. He's just amazing person. His delivery of stories and just how he sees the world is just something else. And then, mind you, locally, I have to give a shout out to Devi from the Devi Show. She's got guts. I mean, you see that short little auntie walking down your driveway, you in trouble. You need to put on your out of there. So those are some of the people I respect in the industry. Obviously, people I work with, that I interact with every day. We've got Sona coming up now in February. We bump into so many wonderful people. I love that. And just the conversations that happen, while we wait for the speeches to be delivered in Parliament. It's just amazing. Love it.
Absolutely. We love it indeed. But Luqmaan, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, hoping that we can catch up with you perhaps in future. And we would like to say we wish you all the best in your career. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it and guide you always. Thank you so much for joining us today.
so much. So big shout out to everybody in Durban who knows me, my family, the Shadrach name. We grew up in Carlisle Street, but then moved to Phoenix many years ago. Jazakallah to you and your radio station and management, and may all your future projects go from strength to strength, inshallah.
Inshallah, Ameen. Well, thank you so much, and we'll chat soon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Of course, yes, it is 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Peter Maritzburg. Of course, it is the Feel Good Friday. If you've missed out on the interviews for today, all you simply have to do is ask us for the Spotify. And of course, you can, get on that, like it, share with your friends and family. Let's go for a short ad break. And when we come back, we're going to be wrapping up today's show.
This summer, dine big to win big at Chippewa Spur. Spend 350 Rand or more in store and stand a chance to win prizes worth 12,000 Rand from Hershey Springfield. Prizes include a Rest Assured bed, a DeLonghi coffee machine, and a Kenwood food processor. Enjoy legendary tastes and great wins. Entries close January 13, 2025. Exclusive to Chippewa Spur. T's and C's to apply. Spur, a taste for life.
This is the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili, only on your number one radio station.
Power your drive with confidence at Battery Base. Get reliable performance and long-lasting energy with our premium car batteries. We've got the power to keep your journey worry-free. Charge ahead. Choose Battery Base. 470 Felix Dlamini Road, Overport. Or call 083-786-4879. 031-207-4800. Manufacturers of the new ZN number plates. SABS approved, made while you wait.
You've spent all that time, effort, and energy putting together an incredible business. Now, you need to tell people about your business. Advertising and marketing, it's what we do. Listen to this.
Absolutely amazing. It's been my first experience working with a radio station. So you don't actually know what to expect. And you also feel like, you're just going to be a number. But at Radio Ansaar, I was just not a number. I think the support that we've got has been amazing. You guys have been absolutely amazing. You guys have opened doors for us that a couple of months ago, I wouldn't have thought possible. I think the support for me has been the greatest. It's so widespread because you guys are on YouTube Live, Facebook Live. It's not just radio based. We've got people in Johannesburg listening to you guys. So it's so widespread. We're getting that marketing.
Get in touch with our sales department on 031-208-1601. Speak directly to your target audience.
This year, the annual Sira Jalsa is once again taking place over 3 days, inshallah. Masjid al-Salam in Musgrave, Durban, Friday, 31st January 2025. From Maghrib to Isha, Nurul Islam Masjid in Lenasia, Saturday, 1st February 2025. From 4 p.m. onwards, Masjid Al-Furqan in Cape Town, Sunday, 2nd February 2025 from 5 p.m. till Maghrib. Be sure not to miss this exciting lineup with dynamic scholars, Mufti Sulaiman Mullah, Mufti Ismail Meng, Sheikh Yahya Ibrahim of Australia, Maulana Sulaiman Rawat, Maulana Ibrahim Bam, and Sheikh Ismail Lond.
Tune in to the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili.
It's finally Friday again. Assalamu alaikum.
From South Africa to the world.
Let's go.
Don't miss out on Friday afternoon vibes like no other. Put it on and leave it on. Join us for inspiration and positivity from trailblazing guests to topics you want to hear. Your Friday just got better. Let's make the end of the week better together. Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili. Young, fresh and trending. This is the Feel Good Friday with Bibi Amina Phili, only on your number one radio station.
Where do we go from here? Look up to the sky, so many shades of you. And I paint the day and night, the beauty of this life. A reflection of you and I, created in different nations and tribes, so we can unite.
Hopping on these planes, got my people in all these places. Passport stamp running out of pages. Linked up with with my family. Even though we ain't on the same side of the sea, drive different than we ain't got the same team. One body, one love, if we bleed, then I bleed. Same one life, you take humanity. Let's
Of course, let's celebrate humanity as well as the end of the week as we culminate the end of the week, and we look forward to such an exciting weekend indeed. But it's at that time where we have to say Assalamu alaikum to you. Thank you so much for allowing me to keep you company for these amazing hours. Of course, it's been fun. It's been exciting for myself and the team. A big thank you to Tobega for making sure the production, it's not just a radio show anymore. It is a full production that goes on every single Friday, and thank you so much for making it smooth and go as smooth as possible every single week. And thank you as well those of you who of course were looking forward to the quiz up competition. You can of course join in next week, same time, same place, where we will officially be launching the quiz up challenge. But we didn't have time today. Hopefully next week we'll have some more time. And if you enjoyed, like I said, today's show and interviews, of course, you can watch it via our Facebook, or even you can join us on Spotify. Follow us on our social media platforms. And if you have Instagram, be that good person and follow me at Bibi Amina _worldwide, so you get to see the behind the scenes of my life and how I do radio. For myself and the team, it is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.